WHGE. WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression on our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, getting them started. Yeah, I got started very, very late today, but I'm going to do the whole hour. Yeah, we got started. We had some technical difficulties, so if you're out there, tune on in. Because we still going to get it going. We still going to tell you what you need to know. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing, and that's what we do on the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. And my disclaimer out the way.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual. The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors and do not reflect.
Okay. All right. Let's get them going. I got the disclaimer out the way. Yeah, buddy. All right. First thing I want to do is say big ups to Mike Epps. Comedian Mike Epps, famous for his role in the Friday movies and quite a few other things, and what have you, stand-up comedian. Mike Epps bought and renovated homes in his childhood neighborhood, providing affordable housing to low-income residents. Mike Epps and his wife Kyra are taking on a new mission with buying back the block, aiming to create affordable housing in Indiana. The couple has already restored homes in Mike's hometown, combating gentrification and preserving the community. Their real estate journey is a powerful example of giving back and building their neighborhood. Big ups, brother. Really appreciate you. We respect that. You know, it's something, the ignorance that so many people have about Africa, right? And of course that comes from our lack of education, from our lack of having any connection, right? And to me, the craziest thing is that people don't understand or don't realize that there are major metropolis in Africa. Okay? And not built by the colonizers. There are major metropolis in Africa, major cities. And a couple of facts about some of the African cities. Right? Yes, Johannesburg, South Africa, is the richest city in Africa. Okay, once the bastion of apartheid. And I can go into the politics of their, what they are economically and this, that, and the other. However, what I'm focusing on now are facts about different African cities. Kigali, Rwanda is the cleanest city in Africa. Cape Town is said to be the most beautiful city in Africa. Nairobi, Kenya is Africa's leading business destination. Addis Ababa in Ethiopia houses the headquarters of the African Union. Port Louis, Mauritius, is the most livable city in Africa. Accra, Ghana, is the fastest growing city in Africa. Luanda, Angola, is the fastest developing city in Africa. Abuja, Nigeria, is Africa's first purpose-planned capital city. Gaborone, Botswana, and Kigali, Rwanda are the safest cities in Africa. Lagos, Nigeria is the most populous city in Africa. Johannesburg, South Africa, has the highest number of US dollar millionaires in Africa, many of them black. Cairo, Egypt is the city with, no surprise here, the richest history in Africa. Yes, indeed. And so when people, come at you with that ignorance, tell them to look it up. Tell them to look, oh, well, the Africans live in huts. And people actually believe, oh, they live in mud huts. And not even understanding the environmental genius behind the mud huts. Have no understanding of that. Get you some education. WHGE 95.3 FM, open eye. Studio Time Blues, right here on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Yeah, check this out. As long as I'm dancing, acting or rapping, walking around like I don't know what's happening, you like me. If I'm talking about drinking and nothing about thinking, as long as I'm high and never ask why, you like me. But the second I start with the state of the economy, black leadership, black guys, and black sovereignty, that's when you can't seem to follow me. Confusion. You feel like you losing. I'm no longer amusing. This song's about choosing why you're cruising. Either black entertainment or the black revolution. People love to see a young black man rap until he wakes up and realizes he's caught in the trap. You like me. That's from KRS-One. One of the most conscious brothers to pick up the mic. Music can be a very revolutionary force. It always has been. When you look at any revolutionary movement, there was music to go with it. Just like music can wake you up, it can also put you to sleep. When you come into a community, if you don't know the mental state of the people, all you have to do is listen to the popular tunes they play. That's a quote from Umar Johnson, Dr. Umar Johnson. From Louis Armstrong's Black and Blue in the late 20s to Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit in the 30s, Nina Simone's Mississippi Goddamn in the 60s, James Brown's Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud in the late 60s, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On and Stevie Wonder's Living in the City in the 70s. Music has always had its consciousness, including the early days of hip-hop. from Run DMC's It's Like That, through the apex of conscious rap as produced by Public Enemy. Then came NWA and gangster rap. What most critics miss is the fact, for the most part, gangster rap maintained a level of consciousness. Then corporate America got involved, and rappers could no longer get airplay with music that informed and uplifted. Now the music that gets airplay is about materialism, machismo, misogyny, and ignorance. Gangster rap became thug rap. This is neither a coincidence nor happenstance. This is a planned, purposeful process with an intended outcome. It is no secret that young fans tend to emulate their favorite artists, and that these artists have the power of influence. That's why some of these rappers I look at, I'm not going to go through their names, but I piss on them. Because none of these people give a damn about anything but fame and money. Not one of them give a damn about the advancement of our community or people. Why is thug rap or trap music so popular? Because that's what's pushed, made available, and sex and violence sells. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM, your third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, right here on The Open Eye. You know, it's something that many states are legalizing marijuana. Okay. You might wonder, why was it illegal in the first place? Of course, the federal government still hasn't legalized marijuana, and it's still listed as a Schedule 1 narcotic. Okay, a Schedule 1 narcotic equal to heroin. The federal government equates marijuana with heroin. That's nuts. How did we get here? Okay, the real reason cannabis was illegal. Meet Harry Anslinger, as Lucky Luciano called him, Harry Ass Slinger. Goes a lot of nerve from a heroin dealer, but there you go. Okay, he was the Harry Anslinger. He was the head of what they call it, the Narcotics Bureau, which became the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, from 1930 to 1962. This is what he said. He said most marijuana smokers are Negroes, Hispanics, jazz musicians, and entertainers. Their satanic music is driven by marijuana. And marijuana smoking by white women makes them want to see sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and others. It is a drug that causes insanity, criminality, and death. The most violent causing drug in history of mankind. What a crock of crap. And remember, this dude, was one of the worst racists to serve in the government. Harry Anslinger. Who was Harry Anslinger? Like I said, he was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. He is also a murderer. That's right. Because he was responsible for the death of one of our most prolific, most famous jazz artists. How Strange Fruit killed Billie Holiday. Holiday, throughout her career, called public attention to the devastating impact of white supremacy. And she drew the notice of Harry Anslinger. He actually ordered her to stop singing the song. And Strange Fruit may have been written by an American songwriter and poet, Abel Meeropol. It is known as Lewis Allen. But ever since Billie Holiday sang the 3 brief stanzas to music in 1937, she owned it. Holiday, born Eleanor Fagan, said she always thought of her father when she sang Strange Fruit. He died at age 39 after being denied medical treatment at a Texas white-only hospital. Because of that memory, Holiday was reluctant to perform the song, but did so anyway to tell people about the reality of life as a black man in America. She said, it reminds me how Pop died. She wrote that in her autobiography. But I have to keep singing it, not only because people asked for it, but because 20 years after Pop died, the things that killed him are still happening in the South. The song was so poignant for Holiday that she laid down some rules when she sang it at her gigs. She would close the evening with the song. The waiters would stop service when she began, and the room would be in total darkness except for a spotlight on her face. And there would be no encore. Lady Day, as Holiday was called by many at the time, began to work the song into her repertoire 16 years before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama. Jazz writer Leonard Feather referred to the song as the first significant protest in words and music, the first significant cry against racism. The song's lyrics were shocking to some members of Holiday's mostly white audience. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. At times, a performance of the song was met with fierce pushback. Though many people knew that lynchings of African Americans in the South were common, there was resistance to ending the practice among Southern whites. Racism combined with a popular desire to limit federal power over local concerns kept people in the North from making any successful moves to end lynching in the South. As a matter of fact, it wasn't outlawed until a few years ago. The anti-lynching bill was just passed lately. After 100 tries for over 100 years. In the end, Billie Holiday's insistence on performing Strange Fruit, well, was responsible for her demise. When the primary attempts to silence her came from the infamous Harry Anslinger, the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, a foaming at the mouth, extreme racist, even for the 1930s. And he was one of those racists that racists say, oh, wait a minute, that's too racist. People that ran around lynching people looked at him and say, oh, God damn, that's too racist. Harry Anslinger. As Johann Hari details in Chasing the Scream, the first and last days of the war on drugs Anslinger claimed that narcotics made black people forget their place in the fabric of American society, and that jazz musicians were dangerous, in particular, creating satanic music under the influence of marijuana. Holiday, who throughout her career called public attention to the devastating impact of white supremacy, was unfortunately a drug addict. She drew Anslinger's notice, and he ordered Holiday to cease performing the song. Of course, the courageous Lady Day refused, and Anslinger ramped up his efforts to silence her. After one of Anslinger's men was paid to track Holiday and frame her with buying and using heroin, she spent 18 months in prison. Upon her release in 1948, the federal government refused to renew her cabaret performance license, which was mandatory for any performer playing or singing at any club or bar serving alcohol. This utterly undermined her career. Although Holiday was able to perform multiple sold-out Carnegie Hall performances over the next several years, she could no longer travel the nightclub circuit. Unable to perform regularly at the venues she loved and to stop remembering a childhood that included being raped at age 10 and working in a brothel with her mother, Holiday eventually began using heroin again. When she checked into a New York hospital in 1959, her liver was failing and cancerous. She was emaciated and her heart and lungs were compromised. Despite her condition, she didn't want to stay there. They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me in there. Don't let them, she presently told friends and family. Indeed, Anslinger's men, sensing a macabre opportunity, showed up at her hospital bedside, handcuffed her to the bed, took mug shots, removed gifts that people had brought to her room, flowers, radio, record player, chocolates, magazine, and stationed 2 cops at the door. Even so, as doctors began methadone treatment, Holiday began to improve, gaining some weight and improving slowly. But then Anslinger's men prevented hospital staff from administering any further methadone. Billie Holiday succumbed to death within days. The only surviving film version of Holiday performing the song is from the British cabaret television show Chelsea at 9, recorded February 25th, 1959, shortly before she died, and released in March of the same year, just a few months before her death. Her voice is strong and impressive. The raw emotion, simply devastating. Lady Day, murdered by Harry Anslinger. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. All right. Patrice Gibbs, Third Eye Optometrist here. You know, it's something with this election coming up. There are those that in our community, amongst black people, that are looked out as sellouts and bootlicks and this, that, and the other, and well, they should be. Especially those amongst black people that are foolish enough to vote for Trump. Young black lady in Chicago, what she call herself? Whatever it is, she's a black for Trump. Okay. Confused young lady. She gets on this Zoom call platform, whatever it was. I think it was a Zoom call, a podcast. And she wanted to participate in because she's a black for Trump. Right? And when the host of the podcast realized that, she was black, he started asking questions. How'd you get on here? Who invited you on here? This was, this was one of them MAGA white supremacists. And she said, well, I came on here because I'm a black for Trump. And it came up on my DM. Who brought you on here? What you doing on here? And there's another black lady on there, and she's like, oh, well, we're here because we're MAGA. We're MAGA for Trump. He said, MAGA? You're not MAGA. And he went on to say, who brought these N-words on here? And their little feelings was hurt. And he kicked them off. This is the foolishness that you suffer. For being an idiot and suffering from cunitis. Now, on the other side, we have some people that are reluctant, and understandably so, to vote for the Democrats. I have no great love for Kamala Harris. Her record is real shaky with black men when she was Attorney General in California. The thing is, even with that, the orange disaster should be no competition for her, even amongst our people. The reason being because of the damage that they plan to do. Okay, let me, no, I shouldn't have to tell you who this fool is. I'm talking about the orange disaster. Because his own former vice president, who he had tried to have killed when he wouldn't back his effort to steal the vote. Mike Pence said this fool is unfit for office and shouldn't be reelected. I mean, this idiot mishandled COVID-19, the pandemic crisis. He handled it so badly, he caused unnecessary deaths for many U.S. citizens. And it vastly outnumbered deaths in other modern countries. And like I said, he knew he lost the 2020 election, but he lied to his followers and urged them to take over Congress and prevent the peaceful transfer of power. Something that has never happened in America. The most bitter loser in a presidential election handled the transfer of power peacefully. Now, this fool is facing multiple criminal trials. And of course, it's not going well for him. He's already been convicted of 34 felonies. Yeah, it's something when you have a prosecutor running against a convicted felon who just hasn't been sentenced yet. You know, he wants pregnant women to be monitored by the state. And of course, the right-wing dream is to have abortions criminalized, literally turning women into state property. He told Republicans in Congress to block the bipartisan bill to manage immigration better, because passing it would make President Biden look good. Furthermore, he went to Netanyahu and told him not to have a ceasefire, not to make a deal on the ceasefire, because it would benefit Kamala Harris. That's treason. I want to know why the FBI ain't picked his ass up for that. I have some people that I respect that, you know, and I understand where they're coming from. And say, vote the couch. Now, some of these people saying that they full of crap because they're undercover conservatives. I'm gonna get back to that in a second. But I gotta call out Cornel West, you son of a bitch. You took money from right-wing organizations to help you get on the ballot in swing states, knowing damn well you have no chance of winning the election. And the people that gave you the money to get on there know damn well you don't either. They just want you to siphon off some black votes from the Democrats to give the orange disaster a better chance. Now, of course, one of the primary reasons not to vote for Trump is because, you know, his record is just the sorriest record you ever heard. Like I said, just a convicted felon. And not to mention, of course, and we all know, that he's pretty much a foaming at the mouth racist. The insults that he's spewed to us as a people, as black people, it's surprising that any black person, the idea that he think we so stupid that we're impressed by them crappy sneakers, or that we can relate to him because of his mugshot. Oh yeah, you know, black people have been through that, and like most of us are criminals that can relate to a mugshot. I ain't got no goddamn mugshot, and most of black people I know don't. But it's not just about that. Look, let me tell you this here. And we're gonna go right here. You know, this judge ruled that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, not the police who murdered her, who shot her, was the cause of her death. Through the case out, he dismissed some of the major charges against these cops. Because they still got to go to trial. U.S. District Judge Charles Simpson, a Ronald Reagan appointee, may roast in hell, may the devil sodomize him with a pitchfork. He dismissed felony charges against two of the former Louisville officers involved in the police raid that led to Taylor's death. Instead, the judge ruled that Taylor's boyfriend was legally responsible for her death. Because these race soldiers, they still face other charges. Okay? They still face other charges. The point is, this judge was appointed by Ronald Reagan. The judge who threw out the reparations case for the survivors of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, was a right-wing appointee. You see where this is going? Now, the Supreme Court, 6 right-wing judges. And they make the most draconian rulings. Who sits on these courts and on these federal benches is very important. Tell you why. Look, check this out. Where we at here? Okay. And these Republicans, they done jumped off the racist deep end. And this is what they done came up with. They are arguing that Kamala Harris is ineligible to be president because even though she is a natural-born citizen and she was born to parents who were not natural-born citizens of the U.S. So even though she was born on U.S. soil because of her parents weren't, she is unqualified to run. And of course, this applies to Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, and others as well. And check this out. They are citing the Dred Scott case to prove their point. The Dred Scott case was the single worst case in Supreme Court history. The very worst case in Supreme Court history. Because the Dred Scott case, who was it? Wait a minute, I got some more on here. Let's see where I got that. Wait a minute, give me a second. Yeah. All right. I hope by now you have heard of the Dred Scott case. Have some knowledge of that. Okay. It was in Dred Scott versus Sanford, the Supreme Court ruled that slaves weren't U.S. citizens and weren't protected by the federal government. And this, what is this group called? The National Federation of Republic Assemblies. And let me tell you who some of their members were. Republican demon Ronald Reagan, George Bush Sr., Jr., the National Federation of Republic Assemblies is nothing but a nationwide white citizens council. Okay. In this case, these fools actually have declared that she's not qualified. Yeah, and it's something that brown people or fall brown people like Nikki Haley and them either. And you know, with these people that, these grifters like Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy, sorry ass, what they do to gain prominence amongst the white supremacists is they come at black people with their hatred and what have you. They say the most egregious things they can think of about black people. Mhm. And if this was, of course, they're pointing out, the Dred Scott case. The Dred Scott case was overruled, was not overruled, it was made obsolete by the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. So yeah, it was basically overturned. That's the word I was looking for. Overturned by those amendments and other court cases. The thing is, and I say it was nullified. The thing is, if this went to the Supreme Court, remember, there are 6 white supremacists sitting on the Supreme Court. Wait a minute, Clarence Thomas is a black man. Hey, he's a white supremacist, surrogate. And you have to wonder, how this fool would vote on that? If they are using Dred Scott as an excuse, these people are blatantly racist and should be abolished. Because what the Dred Scott decision basically said was slaves were property, not human, so they're claiming Kamala Harris is not human. Oh, don't kid yourself. Clarence Thomas would vote in favor of that. Oh, most definitely. No doubt. And see, with this 2025 thing, one of the plans is to challenge Brown versus Board of Education, Patrice versus Ferguson. Whether these cases, like Patrice versus Ferguson was the case that established separate but equal, nullified by the Brown versus Board of Education decision. And these white supremacist councils that are going nationwide would do every damn thing they could to overturn that. And with the current Supreme Court and the federal judges appointed by the right, they had every intention of taking us back. Oh, not back to 1957, where they have their Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best fantasy mythology. Not just back to there. They want to take us back to 1857. I remember one of these MAGA people being interviewed, and he was asked, "Do you think slavery is wrong?" He said, "No comment." He didn't want to say the quiet part out loud. Because in his mind, we should have never been free. Now I look up at people like Byron Donalds and Tim Scott. And I see some black people, want to debate with them. Don't debate with nobody that Harriet Tubman would have shot, because she'd have shot them in the ass, no doubt. It's awful people. I also have to look at some of us that say, hey, and don't get it mixed. I fully understand. Like I said, I have no great love for Kamala Harris. But the damage, I know, We can't just vote for these Democrats without making them give us some tangibles. And one of the first things that someone will say is reparations. And they're not saying a damn thing about reparations. Let's be realistic about that. Okay? I doubt if I would see reparations in my lifetime. Even though it comes up in different places and is spoken on forcefully. You know, you have different states holding commissions and studying. Now, how long are they going to study it? See, what you have to understand, there's something that my man Cyrus Sutin said. He said, I don't care how bad I treated you. I don't care how effed up I made your life and your community. I don't care what I stole from you or how much you deserve it. I'll be damned if I'm going to finance your empowerment. Even though the money that I hold was stolen from you. Because the reality is, reparations is not just about slavery. Okay? It's not just about the stolen labor. But it's also about the 100 years of Jim Crow and economic oppression. Because after slavery, when the African in America made gains, when the African in America achieved economic success, backed by the government, white supremacists stole it from us. So all those that talk about, I had nothing to do with slavery, and no, maybe you didn't, but you benefited from the oppression of our people. Yes, reparations are indeed owed. Let me ask you something. What's your plan B? What's your plan when we don't get reparations? WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Your host, Patrice Gibbs, third eye optometrist. You know, a lot of people actually aren't aware that slavery was less than 150 years ago, which is no more than 3 generations ago. The transatlantic slave trade started in the 1400s, and slavery legally ended in 1865 in the U.S. That is over 400 years of social engineering, brainwashing, and terror that black people have endured. This dysfunctional behavior has been passed down from generation to generation, and unfortunately, it's going to take more than 150 years to properly reverse this mindset. Black people never received any psychological therapy after they were legally free. They were forced to just get over it and move on. It's amazing the resiliency that we have. And of course, we should all know about the horrors of the Jim Crow era and racism today. Blacks really never had a chance to reinvent themselves because they have always been under attack in America. I refuse to ignore or downplay my ancestors' experiences. Stop allowing others to tell you how to feel about your history. I'd be damned if the oppressor is going to tell me how I should feel about the oppression that they committed against us. Because our history plays a critical role in our condition as a people today, economically, socially, and mentally. Yes, we suffer from the traumatic slave disorder. No doubt. This is something that, I have spoken on. It's from my book, Organized Unity for Progressive Revolution. Do not mistake this work for the random of some wild-eyed militant Malcolm X Farrakhan wannabe. It is a result of the study of our history and present condition and deep concern for the plight of our people. It's not an effort from some pseudo-intellectual who through my own great wisdom and vision would be a savior of the black man. It's an effort to further and ferment the ideals of Marcus Garvey, the understandings of our scholars like Chancellor Williams and Dr. Clark. Because comparatively, I'm just an infant in the struggle. Just a conduit of the wisdom and knowledge that was passed down. The black man may continue his self-destructive course weak and ununified, exploited and forever subject to the whim of the oppressor. This tragic situation may continue into an uncertain future. But never let it be said, no member of the black race studied the main problem from a historical perspective and offered a solution to take us into the future. Never again let it be said that no one tried to point a possible path out of the abyss of oppression. We gotta have a plan. And that plan should be to form a vast national black community. See, that's why it's important that you vote, especially on the local level. Because what we need to do is, like I said, especially on the local level, is to put the right people with the right mindset, with the right consciousness in a position not only to control the social politics and social policies, but the economic policies. See, so many of us suffer from the slave mentality. Still, obviously. We actually believe and accept the limitations that the oppressor places on us. Our primary goal must be the liberations of our minds. Don't expect this to be done easily or quickly, because it has to be done through persistence and constant reprogramming of our thought process and value system. Because we have adopted the value system of the oppressor, which is individualistic, which is where you get these clowns running around with their sovereignty. Look out for number one. This is in direct conflict with who we are. It's detrimental to our well-being. And we always gonna have those who cry, we can't do this or we can't do that. And we got to exercise the demon can't from our souls, or any plan or endeavor we undertake is doomed to failure before we even start. And we don't need a big name to get started. We can't afford to waste another speaker's fee and receive no change. And we don't have to call with some, we don't have to start with some big mass meeting. Communication is the seed. And include children. I don't care how young they are. Forget that old children should be seen and not heard crack. Because the oppressor looks at our children and they don't look at them as children. They look at them as a threat. Tamir Rice was 12 years old playing with a toy gun. And those that look to mislead our children don't consider their age or mindset. And we got too many of our communities where the streets are calling them. We got to organize. We too many times have our leaders told us we're out organized. Okay, and stop that crap. Looking at some of our people that have achieved financial success as they must have been in the Illuminati. Everybody had the smarts to achieve some financial success. It was not in the goddamn Illuminati. And they are not a sellout because you know what makes you a sellout? When you get through the door and close it behind you. When you achieve some success, financial success, and then look down on the community from which you came. When you climb up the ladder, and then and instead of lengthening the ladder, you pull the ladder up behind you. Okay. And there are different places where you start. And of course, politics and leadership. How many times have I told you? We are very often not very politically astute. Okay? Yeah, of course, we remain loyal to one party because we can clearly see the elitism and racism in the other party, while failing to recognize the same thing in the party we remain loyal to. And some of us will tell those that bring criticism to the lesser of the two evils, the party that we remain loyal to shut up. And no, we should not shut up. We should be very vocal in our criticisms for the Democrats. Now, some people say, you're going to do them damage because, we can't have Trump in there. And I agree, we can't have Trump in there because they have look. With this Project 2025, they have every intention of doing us damage. I've told you that many times. And they don't only have intention of doing damage to the country and working people. Okay, because they even want to turn back the clock on things like child labor. But let us be clear about something. The first thing they're going to do, the first people they're coming after are us. Mm-hmm. Our foolishness is caused by unorganized disunity. If we learn to vote as an organized national community and put a stop to those undercover sellouts, not just the outright blatant sellouts, but those that are telling us to vote the couch because they're not going to do anything for us and they're not going to give us reparations. And like I said, it's about a lot more than reparations. A lot more than reparations. It's about who sits on those federal benches. Because those federal benches have done a lot of damage. And it's from those federal benches that a lot of these laws are overturned or corrupted. So it's about more than reparations. Mm-hmm. If we do this right, we can change the entire scope of American politics. I told you last week, you take this thing from the inside out, you infiltrate every strata of the society. Mm-hmm. Because what we have to realize is that the people are the first and final source of all power. Hey, Bessie, I see you, sister. The well-being of the community of people is superior to the well-being of any individual. And we can allow no leader or elected official to be a power of his own accord, but an instrument of the people responsible for executing the will of the people. And we have to have structure. For instance, we need a division of economic planning and development for our community. And the purpose of that should be community cooperative enterprises. Primary goal to establish a central financial hub. And there should be great emphasis concentrated on those black communities with little or no building and loan services. We need to provide financial counseling and money management. Develop and support a central supply and distribution agency to open avenues blocked by mainstream agencies. We need a division of political action to train, develop, and put in office politicians dedicated to organized unity for progressive revolution. And we need to keep them educated. So we need a division of education to achieve a higher standard of teaching and student achievement on all levels of education, with strong emphasis being placed on economic training so as to educate producers, not dependent job seekers. And with the crap that they got going on, we need to publish our own textbooks. Develop and support black public schools. And for some, this is going to be tough, but promote the abandonment of integration by way of busing and so-called school desegregation. My plans and ideals are not set in stone. It's open to expansion, suggestion, revision, and improvement. What my plan shouldn't be used for is to lay around. Time's running out. We can't wait. May God bless us with unity in my lifetime, because it would be a beautiful thing. And we have to realize we are, each and every one of us, responsible for each other. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is The Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. This has been The Open Eye. Sorry I got in late, so I stayed a little late. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. All right. I will post on Facebook. I know some of you probably missed it because I was late. It is posted on Facebook. I will upload it to YouTube so you can catch it. All right. And as I always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This has been The Open Eye. All right. Hey, Bessie. Thanks for joining in with me. That's right. And as I always tell you, global African supremacy. Because the world was a much better place when the African ruled. I'm Patrice Gibbs.